Dr.
Thank you. Is that all right if I record this?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Dr. Court. And Dr. Prasad, I'm Richard Downs. I'm a dentist in Iowa.
Iowa. I went to school in Iowa.
Yeah, I know you went to the University of Iowa, so did I.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I just wanted you to know that. And I have on the line with me Owen Boyd. Now, Owen is the head clinical person who does most of the research on water purification for a company I own stock in. It's called Top in Healthcare, and I'm the founder of OraCare Products, which is a dental products company that both of these companies work heavily with oxidizing products like hypochlorous acid, toluene dioxide, and we use these products in sterilization and dentistry and disinfection. And presently, I'm working on a clinic in Haiti. But Dr. Prasad, Owen wanted to ask you some questions, mainly around the auditory uses of this product. So I'm going to give Owen the floor now and have him ask you these questions, because certainly I think that you could help him with that.
Sure, glad to.
Yeah, so Doctor, I'm one of these guys. I'm a kind of a research fanatic, because I started working in, to step back, my father had 4 engineering degrees, so he tried to teach me everything before I even got into high school, and which made high school very boring for me. But
yeah.
I got into research and development on water treatment technologies about 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the drive at the time was purification, purify the water, which in essence was, let's make water a solvent, you know, which is, we're very successful now. You know, you got RO and DI water. And as I was developing all these technologies, you know, I was developing it essentially to meet the guidelines of the EPA. And it was maybe 25 years ago, after walking the halls of Easter, you know, things, you'll live a long, healthy life instead of being in a wheelchair at 75 years old and, you know, sort of relegated off to some rest home. You know, what a horrible way to go.
Right.
So when I was reading your stuff, you know, I came across a couple of the patents, and I was absolutely stunned at the amount of information on rebuilding, you know, auditory nerves and hair cells, you know, and I was like, wow, if that's true, because I deal with the Stanford research guys on what they're doing in the auditory, because they proclaim themselves the best of the best, and you know, regenerating nerves, incredibly difficult, you know. And most of the doctors that I talk to, you know, I know a phenomenal hand surgeon who can do transplants, but they can't get the nerves to work, you know, and that seems to be the whole thing. And so I read that and was like, you know, I kind of try and put pieces of puzzles together, but not trying to improve people's, you know, hearing per se, you know, like, you know, if somebody's missing a range of noise, you know, from, you know, nerve death, it's like right now tinnitus is a monster, you know, you know, I don't know if it's worldwide. I mean, I've had it since my days in the military, when I sat and watched 18-inch guns go off on board ship, where we didn't have earplugs. They just said, open your mouth so you don't burst your eardrums. That was our training back then. So at 19 years old, I had tinnitus. And, you know, I just thought, what's that? You know, I never even paid attention to it. But everybody, you know, and I talked to so many people on health issues, because I was tracking the use of, as an example, this is hypochlorous acid in a little spray bottle. That's it in a little nose spray. And, you know, because I was dealing with a bunch of ENTs, and, you know, they take a beautiful sterilized piece of equipment, and when they want to do take a sample from lung tissue, they bring it up through your nose, down into your lung. And I said, okay, so you brought it up into a nose. Chances are the nose is inflamed. God knows it's got every bacteria and virus on the planet in it. And you're taking a sterilized piece of equipment, pushing it up through that mess into the lungs, and then scratching the lungs. They said, you must create a ton of lung infections. And he goes, oh yeah, we do. So now we've got them, starting to evolve into using, hypochlorous acid to essentially clean out the lungs, reduce the inflammation, so you've got a better chance of not infecting that patient.
Yes.
But, the nutrient itself, I mean, for me to, put that up on our website and start really pushing that, it falls in line with the kinds of products that I'm interested in, because I've never been interested in magic wands. And as you know, there's a lot of people that'll sell you anything,
Right.
So I also did a lot of research on tocotrienol, so I was really interested in your vitamin E, because Dr. Tan out here at he used to be with the University of Massachusetts, his studies on tocotrienol, or actually delta tocotrienol specifically, and its impacts on cancer are really marvelous studies. So upping the mineral content for people, because we're not going to get it out of our foods anymore, because we don't grow natural foods anymore. People don't know how to plant foods. So, and the soils that we're using, they're diminished because, as you know, the nitrogen cycle is, in chaos right now. So we're not replenishing minerals in the earth. So using this would be great, but, looking at all the claims that are sitting there in that thing, I didn't see anything about tinnitus, where the research in your patents are very strong.
Yeah, the research on tinnitus we did in Nashville with the private clinic audiologist, Jewel, her name was, and she put the people, 70 patients, and she used to see this tinnitus. That was her specialty. And follow-up period was about 6 months. And she found that, and this work was published, we published this work in one of those journals, that 70% of our patient shows improvement within 12 weeks. And the reason is that in most of the, you were mentioning the ill health, in most of the cases, the increased oxidative stress and inflammation play a central role, whether it's a hearing disorder. Tinnitus is one form of hearing disorders, but there are many other type of things. And there is more complex system, microRNAs involved and so on. And I have published a lot of information. And if you wish, we will be glad to send to Dr. Court or you, if you provide the information, that what I have done on hearing disorders and micronutrient. And that's what many people, one is an anecdotal story, but it is a funny one, that before we formed this new company, I had an old company called Premier Micronutrient Corporation that we dealt with the Department of Defense and so on. So raising private fund, we went to New Mexico with a big fellow farmer. And he said that, yeah, looks like your thing is interesting. We are interested in funding. And so do you think your vitamin can help me or my wife? And at that time, it was just prepared. We have not even tested that with the Department of Defense laboratories. We just started it. And so we said, we don't know, but you try. And for 90 days, and if it doesn't do any good, then throw it. So after 3-4 months, my CEO went again and said, how everything is going. So the guy said, yes, I like your vitamin, but I have one problem. Now, when I curse my wife, she can hear it because she was totally deaf. Again, this is an anecdotal story, but the thing is that if you have too many stories like this, that means there is something there, you know.
Yeah.
And so the clinical study was there, and like you, we met another person who was a chairman of a otolaryngology department in Mount Sinai in in Los Angeles, and he was in Vietnam War, and he has also same thing, tinnitus. But he says since 35 years I have a tinnitus. So again, at that time we didn't have all these experiments done, and same thing. And after some time, she wrote us a nice letter saying that not only that his tinnitus has improved, but now he can go and play golf that he was unable to do so before. But anyway, so these are the story before we actually did the experiment with Marine Corps, who has a, as you know, traumatic brain injury, and Dr. Coates, you have told them all those experiments that we have done it.
No, I haven't. But I also wanted to mention, gentlemen, that Dr. Prasad has personally written and co-authored 29 textbooks, and we're not exactly sure the papers. I have been thrown out the number of somewhere around between 250 and 289 peer-reviewed papers. He just published a paper, which I can send you, on COVID. And then he has another paper that he's doing that he's just completed on eyes, and it's in publication right now, and micronutrients for eyes. So, you know, that's incredible. My favorite of the 14 clinical studies, and I've read them all, is the concussion study at Walter Reed. Is that right?
No, concussion was in the Navy Medical Center in San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego. Go ahead and tell him, Dr. Prasad, because it is my favorite one.
Yeah.
As a concussion specialist, I love this. And I want to just take this one second real quick, gentlemen, because when we're talking about tinnitus, you know, we're talking about this ringing in the ears that many people are trying to figure out what this is from. It's a concussion-like symptom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason I'm precursoring this as a concussion-like symptom is that what I'm seeing in our research with EMF is that concussions, people that have sustained concussions, they are in the high 90s, 95, 98%, that they develop a hypersensitivity to EMF, to their electromagnetic fields and to their electrical environment. But now we just sent a paper called the Havana Syndrome to Dr. Prasad. And as you know, I'm sure, there were some diplomates in Havana as well as in China, and now as recently as a month ago in Washington, D.C., that came down with concussion-like symptoms and had never had a concussion before. And in those concussion-like symptoms, tinnitus is one of those symptoms. Brain fog, dizziness, vertigo, many other symptoms associated with concussion. So as we look at this, we are on a new terrain. And that new terrain is the terrain of how many devices that require Wi-Fi are there in your environment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you live in an apartment complex, how many Wi-Fi signals are there? And they don't go around us. You know, this is my work. When people are wearing the wireless earbuds, that signal's not going around their head, it's going through their head. With that, go ahead, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah, no, but in Havana Syndrome, you mentioned it, you know, there was a committee appointed by the US government who looked for the causes of so-called Havana Syndrome. Because of within the US, people were exposed to in Department of Defense and they could not figure out why. So they ruled out 10 different agents and finally came out saying that potential probable cause was EMF radiation. So now they will support research on EMF radiation, because thus far people have done a scattered way. There are a lot of papers published on EMF radiation and human health. but there is always some controversy. But and so now at least they have identified, the federal government, that potential cause of Havana syndrome is EMF, sources of EMF radiation.
Yeah, well, the Congress just authorized funds to help the victims of that attack, I believe.
Yeah, help the victims. Yes, they did.
Yes.
And also, but they also have to fund the research why
Yes.
it is happening. You see what I mean? That still, it is a part of the NIH, so I'm sure that they will get the money, when they have some more money for the NIH. But
you
I
have
think
at all the auditory functions and benefits of the product?
yeah, I mean, this is not only there is some symptom, what is called the hypersensitivity syndrome that Dr. Cote was mentioning it. That's very acute effect. Dizziness, headache, migraine headache, depression, anxieties, all these things are acute. And then also there are late effects.
Sure.
Cancer, heart disease, is a terrible environmental agent, but we can't escape it. But what we can do it, just like a radiation, we can't escape it. Right. But we know how to protect against ionizing radiation. And there are some data available, and we have proposed, and we have a formula that should also protect against EMF radiation, because EMF radiation, like ionizing radiation, X-ray and gamma ray, also generates free radicals and inflammation. Sure. Not to the extent as ionizing radiation does, but it does. And not only that, the electromagnetic radiation have a feature that ionizing radiation doesn't have, because this magnetic field can alter the ions, sodium, calcium, potassium. They can force them to vibrate it. And that's why you see an acute effect.
So you're seeing vibration of those molecules?
Beg your pardon?
Are you seeing vibration of those molecules?
Yeah, because the magnetic, electrical magnetic field goes to your brain and they vibrate it. And then they cause a transient abnormality in a brain function, your response, your headache. And then when you go away from this field, then you go away. So this is an acute effect. And this is mostly related to that kind of phenomena. So, and this is EMF radiation, only those which are produced by us. Whatever little bit of EMF radiation we get from nature, they are non-polarized. But man-made EMF radiation is polarized. And when you have polarized type of radiation, then you force the molecule to vibrate, and that creates a problem.
So Dr. Owen, are you looking to market the auditory aspect of this formula?
I think that
I would say that if you got strong science behind you, research that shows that you can, then you can make mention of that. The things that I'm very careful on is, as you know, with FDA.
Of course, you can't claim it, but you can say it. We always say that it is not a cure for disease or prevent disease. But if somebody has a tinnitus, we say you take for your general health. And then while doing so, there is improvement. But in a published information, but again, this is not FDA approved for a specific disease. In published information, I was mentioning to you in Nashville that audiologists did it, was 70 patients, and they 60% or 70% shows improvement within 12 weeks. So that's very good. I mean, this was not a double-blind placebo clinical trial. It was what you had before and what you have after the treatment.
What I liked in that data set that I saw was the research. It wasn't just people's verbalization there where they said, I think I can hear better, or my tinnitus went down.
No.
They measured it.
They measured it,
They measured it.
There is a measurement. Yeah, there is a measurement.
And all the auditory measurements were done in all the different wavelengths you hear in, and they showed that improvement. That's the kind of stuff that, it's like, okay, now I see, that you're making positive change. What's going on cellularly, I think you know, anything that reduces inflammation is always a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. It
And,
also protects the not only tinnitus issue, but also overall health, immune
overall
system.
health.
Immune
Yeah.
system extremely important.
Dr. Prasad, would you would you link what you did in the concussion study and how that can kind of tie in with what we're looking at with EMF and our environment?
Yeah, you know, the concussive injury was among the veterans who were returning from war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they go first in Germany. So by the time they suffered the injury, and by the time they came to a naval medical center in San Diego for treatment, it is 3-4 time interval, and so there was a time lag there. But still, when they came there, they were divided into 2 groups. One group had a standard therapy that they have been getting all these years. The second group was, and Dr. Michael Hoffer, who was the captain at the time, and another half got the standard therapy plus micro daily. We used to call at that time military micronutrient formulation, which later on now we call it micro daily. And it was also approved by the Naval Medical Center, IRB. And the study was for 12 weeks. And these people were suffering from dizziness and balancing problem. And Dr. Hoffer has all kinds of a machine to measure quantitatively for each criteria. There were 10 different criteria of measurement. And they found that even after a week of the treatment, the nurse was telling him that, you know, some people are showing better effect than the others. So they did not.
This is the original packaging that they used in the military.
Yeah.
I kind of keep this one as gold, you know. I only have
because
2.
It was meant to be so that military can, you know, when they go and fight away from the base, then they can have a 1 week supply to have that. And so they all help us to design that particular package. But anyway, so after 12 weeks, this was a 12 weeks study, and they found that on all criteria they were measuring for dizziness or balancing problem, and that the combination group did much better than a standard therapy alone. And Dr. Hoffer presented this abstract in an international meeting of audiologists in some European country. So that was very exciting for us, because again, it would have been much better if, say, within a few weeks, treatment has started. But the fact that even after 4 months, you can affect these kind of parameters tell you that the oxidative damage and inflammation was occurring, and that could have been a progressive. But now that thing, so it was very, very good, well-controlled experiment.
Great.
How about, do you have some more questions for him?
Just, you know, quickly, the uptake methodology, you know, swallowing a tablet versus maybe having something that could sit under the tongue, you know, and take advantage of, you know, the capillaries under the tongue. Because some of the stuff that I've seen is, if you can get, you know, something at the micro nano level that'll uptake through those capillaries, it's almost as fast or sometimes even faster than injecting, you know, with a hypodermic needle right into a vein versus going through the stomach, which is, I always say, it's nature's best sewage treatment plant.
Yeah. No, what we generally suggest, because some of those, that kind of amount of nutrient is tough to put in a very tiny capsule. What we suggested and what I do myself, because sometimes capsules for some people are difficult to swallow it.
Yeah.
So say in a yogurt, I just open it, the content, mix it up, take it with a spoon.
Okay.
Very easy, takes only a few minutes, 2 minutes to do it. And so that way you don't have to have a capsule. And once in a while, some people are sensitive to capsules. So I think, you know, sometimes, especially older people like me, had a difficulty in swallowing
And you know, oh, and
You've been designing
I was,
tongues, Dr. Court, have you not?
I'm sorry.
You've been dissolving it under your tongue?
Yeah, so I had an experience which I can send you guys the heart rate variability, or did I already send it to you guys?
I have it.
You have it, so you could
Yeah.
share it with Owen. So we have a device that is out of Russia, and it's a heart rate variability unit that gives us many different diagnostics. And it's really kind of a thumbnail of what's going on with the person in at that exact moment. And we had an 80-year-old woman at my house. Hang on a second, I'm gonna shut this door. We had an 80-year-old woman at my house, and we tested her, and her overall health, and we'll send you this stuff, Owen, but her overall health status was, I believe, about 15%. And she was quite alarmed by that because her brain, psycho-emotional state in her brain was about 13%. And she was very concerned because her brain was black and orange, and she didn't have a lot of ATP power to be able to actually utilize the nutrients. And she said, what am I going to do? And I said, well, let's just run a little experiment, you know, and I'm always up for a good experiment. So we took 3 capsules. I took 3 capsules, broke them open, put them directly under her tongue. And this is, you know, as you know, raw ingredients of capsules are nasty tasting.
Yeah, I know.
I had her, no disrespect, Dr. Prasad, but
No.
so I had her hold that under her tongue for a few minutes and then gave her a little bit of water to drink. And then we actually watched the 8-minute 5G video that Engage has produced, and I retested her. And so in a 24-minute timeline, we changed, and I'm just going to pull it up on my phone, we changed her overall health status from, I think it was 15% to 77% in just 15 minutes. Let me see if I can pull this up real quickly here. Yeah, there it is. So we changed in her overall health status. I don't know if this will show. No.
Yeah.
From 15% to 77% in her overall health status. We changed her biological age, not her traditional age of 80. She measured at 82 years old in the testing, and in 24 minutes, she tested at 47 years old. But what was most exciting to me as a scientist and as somebody who specializes in neurology is that when on the psycho-emotional state, that's one of the tests that we did, she got a 20%. And she had a delta wave pattern of 60%. Her theta was 14, her alpha was 10, her beta was 5, and her gamma was 8%. She was asleep. Her brain was in shock.
Amazing.
And this is what I see in EMF. And people like myself, and we're looking at 100 million people, Owen, 1/3 of the US population is being misdiagnosed with symptoms of anxiety, depression, insomnia, brain fog, these concussion-like symptoms. We're looking at 100 million people in the United States that are being misdiagnosed and misprescribed medication for a condition that they don't have. So her brain was asleep. She was in shock. In 24 minutes, she went from a 63% delta to 29% delta. And her theta decreased from 14% to 4%. Her alpha decreased from 10% to 4%. And her beta changed from 5% to 57%. She came back online in 24 minutes. Now, I've done thousands of HRVs. I have hundreds of HRVs on myself. I've done this test on myself and numerous patients across the board, but I've used other parameters to change it. I've just started, I was down at Camp Pendleton a couple of weeks ago, and I was utilizing it at a brain summit, and I was testing people, putting it in their mouth, having them walk around and come back and retest them. And we had 100% of the people improved.
That's amazing.
Now, this is what's exciting. This woman was like blown away. Instantly, she's like, what do you got? I want it all. So we put her on the brain formula, we put her on the eye formula, and we put her on the micro daily formula, and she's on it for life. She said, I'm never getting off of this. You have changed my life. And that was at a barbecue. But here's the caveat to this, okay? And I'm being, this is how science works. It doesn't work on everybody like that. So her daughter, who works at the VA hospital, she's Nurse of the Year for the Northwest, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. She's an amazing, amazing nurse. She has to walk around with this device on her chest that is like a phone, but it's a remote control, Bluetooth operated device where she can contact doctors, she can text message from it, she can, record notes and so forth and dictate. And this thing is constantly over her heart, and it's constantly transmitting. Okay. The important thing here is that the electric chair always worked. And I'm doing a lecture in an Alzheimer's summit here in a couple of days. And my topic is on the electric chair. The electric chair always worked. And now we put our elderly in an electric chair with an electric heater and a Wi-Fi device and a remote and a lamp, and nobody's looking at their electrical environment. And so we're seeing a decline in the brain function of our elderly because it's literally sucking the life out of them. It's just like electric chair, just not as much voltage, right? It's not turned up as much. So this lady's constantly exposed in the hospital. You can't get well in a hospital because it's just massive Wi-Fi, massive electricity. You can survive in a hospital for a little while, but the place you want to get out of. And I know I did 10 years in the ER and 10 years on a paramedic and fire unit. So, I mean, I'm very well aware of what's going on in the hospitals. So when we tested her numbers did not move. She had terrible numbers, and we did the same experiment and it didn't work. It didn't have the same effect. I utilized a cold laser on her brain, on her carotids, did a cold laser protocol that always works, didn't work. I used a deep cortical brain meditation on her that always works, didn't work. Why? Because in one of the parameters, there's and the work that we do is called cell danger response. Her ATP and all the cells in her body were in what we call cell danger response or default mode network. She did not have the ability to create the energy to absorb the nutrition and make it utilize. Even though I dissolved it under her tongue, she did not have the same effect. So that's where we have to step up to advanced work. And I'm using that because we can say, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, but it doesn't work on everybody depending on the environment that you are in. Yeah. Like, when I was at Camp Pendleton, I spent most of my time with radio operators and pilots because they're constantly bombarded. So the pilots that I was working with were Cobra pilots, and they have 6 radios and a radar between their legs. They all scored poorly because this is their environment they live within.
Interesting.
But what I will tell you about this nutrient is that it's the best there is, bar none. And we have solutions to flip that switch. So that's the other part. We can flip that switch. We have the research to prove it.
Okay, Owen, so I guess you can market this as an auditory treatment, but not FDA approved. And then
Sure.
The regular standard disclaimer.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I would use that disclaimer.
Yeah.
Dr. Prasad, tell them why it got taken out of the military. Tell them why it was taken out of the military and how this came about as far as the micro daily formula, the MMF formula. When didn't the FDA say wasn't approved, so they shelved it?
Yeah. I mean, most of the military installations that we wanted to do it, they said that you have to have FDA approval. And at that time, the company didn't have enough resources. there is a, what do you call, a separate department of nutritional support system. They are not as stricter as the other one, but we never bothered to submit the required documents for their approval. It is like a vitamin supplement type of approval.
Okay.
And so that's what it means, like, you know, PX and other places that you do it. But again, our model is such that it doesn't fit to put your things in a grocery store or other places. You see what I mean? In other words,
Sure.
model of distribution is direct one, and so or through the professionals, but it is the model that David Namalka and everybody has developed it is. But we went initially from when I was working with the previous company, we went to put in our product to the base where they have grocery store in various bases, and they order in hundreds of thousands of bottles of vitamin. But they said, no, you have to get approval from the FDA. And there was too many complications. And
do we have a few more minutes, guys?
Huh?
No,
Do we have a few more minutes?
Yeah.
How are you doing, Owen? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Because now I'm going to blow your mind. Rick, are you good?
I'm okay for a while.
Dr. Prasad, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'd like you to talk about to the gentleman is two things. The first thing, why does your product not have iron, copper, and manganese in it? And what's the importance of that? Because when I go to the grocery store and I look at products, everything has iron, copper, and manganese in it, and vitamin C. And so why does yours not have that? And then I want to switch gears a little bit and have you talk about what you found in the children's gummies, because next month we will have a patent on, is that correct, Dr. Prasad? A patent on the first children's gummy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So first question, why doesn't it have iron, copper, and manganese when everything else does?
I mean, it has been known, probably Dr. Owen knows it, and that it has been known for hundreds of years that when iron combines with vitamin C or copper, it generates a lot of free radicals. And as you know, we are trying to protect ourselves against free radicals. And iron, copper, and manganese, these are absolutely essential for your health. That's why they are called trace amount. And body has no mechanism of excretion of these trace minerals. So anything you take, it accumulates. And so that's one reason. Second reason is that if your iron is in a multiple vitamin, it will be absorbed better than in the absence of it. And that's why when you have the iron deficiency anemia, they give you doctor vitamin C and an iron supplement because they get absorbed better. But when they get absorbed better and you are taking for a long time, the iron binding protein ferritin gets saturated and the free iron is started floating around and reacting with many kind of a molecule generates extensive amount of free radicals. And as a matter of fact, if you go to the PubMed and do some research, you will get thousands of papers where iron is involved in initiating in a chronic human diseases. And as a matter of fact, in old days, one of the treatment for Parkinson's disease was chelator of iron. And another recently paper came out that copper, excess copper caused Wilson disease, but suddenly smaller amount of copper increase in a body store can increase the risk of dementia. And this paper was published in Proceeding National Academy of Sciences. As you know, this is a very prestigious journal. And that's one reason why we did not add. And for the same reason, we did not add any heavy metal like zirconium, molybdenum, that is not necessary for your body. And again, body has no method of excretions. If you take for 1 week or 2 weeks, it makes no difference. But if you are committed to a long-term consumption, then these heavy metals are known to be neurotoxic. So just to avoid the potential problem, we said no. Another unique thing with our approach is that generally people recommend once a day, most of the vitamin. We recommend twice a day. Because when I was a professor at the University of Colorado, a medical school there, and we had a big laboratory there, and we did a study on a gene expression, 12,000 chips. These days I didn't do it, but my associate did it, postdoctoral fellow did it. And what he found, the slight difference in a concentration of vitamin E, in this case was vitamin E succinate, and cell line we were working was neuroblastoma, which is childhood cancer.
Mhm.
And if you do it, you change it, that there is extensive alteration in gene expression. Thousands of genes are get up and down regulated. And if you change the concentration, totally different type of genes get up and down regulation. So I decided in my mind that if you take once a day, because of the variation in a biological half-life of this micronutrient, half of them approximately goes out by evening, another half by next morning. So your body sees a lot of fluctuation in the level of micronutrient, or in this case, antioxidant. And to cope with that, the genes have to express constantly to cope with this alteration in the level of micronutrient. So, and when they do it, one time they can do error and cause mutation. Some mutations are harmless, others are harmful. So in order to avoid any potential problem, we said if you take it twice a day, one in the morning and evening, you will have a relatively steady state of this micronutrient throughout day and night. So that's the reason. That's another reason why our micronutrient is also very effective in improving your health.
Will you talk a little bit about the new gummy that's coming out?
Oh yeah.
And that it's not a half of an adult dose. And I'd like you to please hit on why ours is so different and what's on the market, what's available, because there's tons of stuff on the market available.
Yeah, I know.
Thank
I
you.
think, that's very important, because what I was doing research on what is available in the market for best product, but we analyze it. And what they had it is amazing. That first they had they did not only dietary antioxidant. In other words, vitamin A, C, E, and even that one, they did not have even a RDA value of children. So they had a suboptimal amount of only dietary antioxidant. They did not have any endogenous antioxidant that our body makes it, like coenzyme Q10 or alpha lipoic acid and glutathione elevating agent and so on. And so I said, the children's, even though they are exposed to same environmental condition or toxins as adult, but during the time for their physical and mental growth, emotional growth, it is extremely important to have a proper type of micronutrient. Even deficiency of even one micronutrient can create a lot of problem for their physical and mental growth. And there was statistics that there are about 7 million children in this country had a deficiency of vitamin D. Because they measured it, probably they would have measured other micronutrients they would have found too. And about 50 million children have an insufficiency of vitamin D. And as you know, vitamin is so important during growth and development. Even vitamin A and C deficiency, they have been observed. So children needs much more necessary to have an appropriate type of micronutrient than adult, because adult uses it to preserve their organ system, their immune system, so that they maintain good health. But children it is not only important to protecting the organ system, but they require further growth. Otherwise, they won't have the optimal capacity, physical or mental, when they grow up, if they have a micronutrient deficiency.
Mhm.
Dr. Cook, did that answer your question? And so in our formula, we have make sure we have an adequate amount of all these nutrients, not only dietary, but also the endogenous antioxidant. We have even a small amount, and so we have. So if you compare their formula and our formula, it is not even close.
Mhm.
And that's the reason people change the brand. They're cheaper, but they're, just like a candy.
Right.
But about making sure that they have a proper nutrient, a little higher than RDA, and so that they can have enough nutrition. And again, I always emphasize diet is very important for you, but no matter how much you emphasize about diet, not many people follow it.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody says you take a fresh fruits and vegetables. How many people take it?
Yeah.
The other thing is, the other thing that's important is to know that, it took them quite a while to find a manufacturer that actually could make the product and not denature it due to the heat aspect.
Yeah, it took a long time. It took a long time because sometimes they will put it, like, for example, selenium oxide, or they are poorly absorbed. And so I think we said, okay, we will put selenium glycinate. I think they come out, because sometimes manufacturing of the gum is totally different things than manufacturing capsule. So we have to readjust few things, what type of thing that cannot smell. Otherwise, if you give a selenomethionine, it has a sulfurous smell. So kids may not like it, So because in adult formula, we have selenomethionine because that's the warm body uses. But it is okay if you take a selenium, get absorbed, and then they form selenomethionine, and they use as a cofactor for glutathione peroxidase. But the important thing is that we have selenium there, and we have some zinc there. But commercial products that are being sold, gummy bear, they have just tiny bit of vitamin A, C, and E, and that's amazing that how they can get away with. At least you have to have RDA.
I've either seen that in the vitamins that I've seen on the market, or I see them try to put everything in the kitchen sink in there without planning, and no regard for blood-brain barrier or proportion. So, Owen, have you gotten your questions answered here?
Yep, sure have.
Okay, great.
Dr. This has been fantastic. I feel honored to be able to get on the phone and chat with you. I didn't know that would be possible. And I thank you, Dr. Court, for facilitating this conference with Dr. Prasad.
Thank you.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah.
This has been a high altitude conversation, and I'm so grateful to you, Dr. Prasad, and Owen and Rick, for letting me help facilitate this. But I want you to know something. This man, besides being brilliant, Dr. Prasad, I hate to throw you under the bus here, but how young are you?
Only 86.
Only 86.
Yeah.
So when we go back and we watch this video again and again and realize that this man just talked at a high altitude conversation and never missed a beat at 86 years old, he must be doing something right. And we want to put this in our bodies.
Yep.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank all of you. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Be well.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great week. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.